Illustrate some of the various crack and deficiency repairs for the wing walls as you described them?
There's a specification, a project manual, which describes in narrative form the procedure for doing the repairs with the Sika products. It's not something that's typically depicted in drawing form. However, the process generally consists of removal of the deteriorated concrete in terms of either crack or spalling until you get to sound material, preparation of the surface, even in certain cases a primer type material would be used if necessary. And then these Sika products, as I mentioned, are epoxy-based materials which would then be applied to address the cracks and spalls to bring them back to a flush surface. And then at that point, a parge coat would be applied so that you get the uniformity of appearance.
Okay, thank you. So I have a plan on screen now that gives some examples. We see this in a lot of historic preservation plans where there's some very specific detailed photos given with takeoffs, explaining to contractors what's expected. So as an example here on picture number 4 that's on the screen now, there's part of the wall that's actually broken and missing, and the note is to reconstruct the wall to match existing. So when the contractor comes to do the work, he actually has to submit a drawing to the architect who's wall to match, and then he gets the approval of the architect. Is that right?
Essentially, that's correct. As I mentioned, what he would be doing is taking the material back down to sound concrete, obviously with the appropriate measurements. He would develop the appropriate formwork to reconstruct it back to its original shape and size, and then replace it with new material.
Okay, very good. So a lot of these different conditions are represented in these photos. Again, I've seen these a lot of different times in the work that we've done and reviewed. I think this sheet is very excellent in illustrating to the contractors who are looking at the work when they're bidding on what they're coming to do and what the methodology will be. So I believe this is a very straightforward historic preservation methodology with regard to the plans that you've submitted, Fred.
Thank you very much.
So we have some general measurements, as you can see on these other pages. And I think at this point, if Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to invite commissioners to ask questions, we would be more than happy to answer those questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Executive Director and Mr. Margron. I think the presentation was pretty good and straightforward for what we're doing. I think this is very important for the city overall, but also just Eastside Park. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for the commissioners to ask questions to the city engineer. And yeah, so commissioners, please raise your hand and the executive director will call upon you as required.
Okay, Commissioner Rafael, I think you have something?
Yes, I just have to state that because this application is going before the county's open space trust fund, I have to recuse myself from the conversation on this application.
Thank you.
The only thing I want to make sure it's clear, is all the profiles on the wall and the steps, the existing profiles will remain or be redone the way they exist now. And that's my understanding. Thank you.
That's correct, sir. The intent is to reconstruct them as they are now.
This is Chair Tate. Just for clarity, and this might help some people out in terms of understanding the materiality that you guys are proposing. Regarding the Sika material, I believe, and I may not just to be sure, we're using that same material at Hinchcliffe Stadium for some areas in terms of the patch and repair. And so it's a sound material, and I think it should be a good fit for this. Do you know the life cycle on this? Like, once this is actually constructed, what's the life expectancy for something like this?
Once reconstructed, it should literally be as new. So obviously, weather, maintenance, all of that stuff factors in. But there's no reason, that if properly taken care of, you shouldn't see another, 50, 60, 75 years out of this.
Great.
Keyword is properly taken care of. Obviously, those steps haven't been properly taken care of in the past, and I don't see that happening in the future.
Other questions, commissioners?
This is Chair Tate. Once a grant is given, roughly what do you expect the timeline to be? What's your anticipation for construction schedule?
We should be in a position, once the grant is approved, to have the drawings ready to go out to bid, the plans and specs ready to go out to bid, let's say within a month. Then it's just going through the city's normal, formal bidding process. That's typically a 60 to 90-day process. And then construction, I would expect to take something on the order of 120 days. The only, codicil to that is that it would obviously have to be during warm weather. So we'd have to make sure the timing is such that this is done during the, spring, between spring and fall, obviously.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any additional questions?
No further questions.
Thank you.
Should we move on to the tennis court now?
Confirmed.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll take a moment now to put up the photos to orient you to the tennis court as the same process that I just went through for the steps. So bear with me while I activate the application for sharing the photos. Mr. Chairman, can you see the photo on screen now, the gate?
Right now, it appears that the stairway is still there.
Okay, let me share this one. Got it. Share.
Okay, the gate's there.
All right, thank you. All right, now I'll give you an overview of conditions at the tennis courts. There are 3 courts laid out on asphalt. Here's an overview photo. You can see the 3 courts across, and basically 4 tall light fixtures in the courts, and the tension nets are across each of the 3. There's a surface of, maybe a painted surface delineating the 3 courts and their various lines. Here is a close view of a stanchion holding one of the nets at tension. You can see from the conditions that around the base of the pole that it's been stressed and it's failed and it's been heaving and cracking at the asphalt at its base. Clearly, these stanchions are anchored in concrete underground, and this is great evidence of their movement. As you probably know, tennis nets are under great tension. There's actually a cable that runs across the top of the net that poles on the opposing poles. This condition is pretty much present on all three of the. This is the deficiencies that are generally throughout the entire court. You can see this spalling of the asphalt and the cracking. These courts, maybe Mr. Margron will tell us later when the last update on these courts was, but they haven't been updated in quite some time. Here's a general overview of the backside of the court fence, and again, the exhibit of additional spalling in the asphalt surface. Another overview looking toward the opposite of the last view, showing again at the lower right corner of the frame the kind of heaving that I described at each one of these poles is sort of the same general condition. Here's a close-up of the overhead light fixtures. I believe there are 4 of them. You can see they're also very outdated. Here's looking down court or across court as if you were a player. I thought you might like to see this view as well. And in general, I tried to get on the bleachers. There's one set of bleachers that's kind of on the side, if you notice from the gate entry, where you could have a little bit of an overview of these 3 courts. So this is a nice overview. You can see there's a lot of space dedicated to the tennis courts, and that would be an excellent project to have these upgraded, because I understand that these are also heavily used by our community. Toward the end of the photos, I have exterior views showing how the actual playing surface itself, the court surface has been built up over the years. There's a soldier coursing of granite stones that are mortared here in the perimeter of the area, and what looks like an original surface sort of on the outside of the fence line. You can kind of see where my cursor is moving along here. It's like kind of a green surface. And then I think I have another closer photo where I can illustrate for you that there's been yet another topping of asphalt that's now red, the current surface. So it looks like there's an original surface. It may have even been concrete at one point, and then asphalt, and now another layer of asphalt above it. And here is the soldier coursing of granite stones that define the actual extent of the perimeter of the courts. This is not. These photos are actually of the phase 1 progress with regard to the walking paths project that I mentioned earlier in the introduction. Wanted to just show a handful of photos as to the results of the county's last grant to the city for executing this project. Now, I understand that the contractors will be back to actually chip seal this surface. This is just the underlayment portion. It's not the final walking surface that hasn't been installed yet. Again, here's the pathways kind of going off toward the playground, and there's a playground, and there's the women's comfort station. This is a closer view of the same, and then sort of looking backward. You can see here in this last photo how the pathway was realigned from its first location to be more oriented back to its original historic location on the left. You can see the scar of the one on the right that was sort of removed in preference of putting it back in its historic location. So coming back to the first of the photos, bear with me while I put up on screen some plans for us to go into the planning views. Okay, Mr. Chairman, do you see the tennis court on screen?
Confirmed.
Okay, so this is just one plan showing the general overview of the project area and some of the main points of work or the scope of work in bullets here in the takeoffs. And again, I won't go into this. I'll let Mr. Margron be more detailed about what the scope is, but you can see the layout of 4 courts and the nets corresponding to each one, the perimeter fence, etc. And this is the area where the bleachers, currently are that I mentioned earlier. Now I'm going to open another set of plans as I did previously. And I'll ask Mr. Margron to please come back and provide us the same kind of insight into the proposal for this work and walk us through it. Mr. Margron?
Thank you, Gianfranco. If I could trouble you to scroll back to drawing number 3.
Is that the one?
This one here, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, if you take a look at this drawing, you will see that this is presenting the rehabilitated condition once the work is completed. The project, as it is scoped out at present, includes the addition of a new asphalt surface on top of the current damaged asphalt surface that is there. All of the posts and their foundations are going to be replaced. If I could trouble you, Gianfranco, to scroll to the next drawing for a quick moment. If you look towards back one.
No, this is the same one. This is the detail you want?
Yeah, I wanted to show the detail on the foundation for the posts.
Right. Oh, sorry, right here.
Yes, perfect, thank you. I suspect that what is currently being used is a typical sonotube type of foundation, which is why you saw all the posts kind of leaned over due to the stress from the cable. The correct type of foundation for tennis post is a trapezoidal type foundation, as you see in the photographs here, and that's to handle the additional stresses associated with the cable. So the intent is to actually replace the entire foundation, replace the post, so that we will not have this problem of the posts caving in the future. In addition, if I can ask you to scroll to the colored photograph just off to the left there. Once the asphalt surface is replaced, the intention is to apply a special latex type of paint, which is the standard of the U.S. Tennis Association, in order to properly, color and stripe and provide the appropriate tennis surface for the players. So this will actually be, a league formatted tennis court for play into the future. If I could ask you to go back to the prior drawing, please. In addition to the work for the resurfacing of the court itself, all of the fencing will be replaced with black PVC coated chain link fencing in order to provide obviously security for the tennis court, as well as a more finished appearance. And it's noted here that the existing bleachers being reinstalled, we're actually going to be replacing it. In addition to that, we have new LED lighting proposed as part of the project. So that'll certainly provide much higher quality light for the players, as well as being much more energy efficient as well. So in a nutshell, that's really the scope of this project, and it will restore, in appearance, the tennis courts will look as new, and they should be in a position to provide facilities for the residents of the city for many, many years to come.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Margron. So, again, the plan shows some good, representative photos of conditions, similar to what I went over, just kind of scrolling through them here on screen for everyone. It looks like there's also an electrical box here. Will this also be addressed? I suppose this will be modernized.
Yeah, as part of the lighting replacement to convert to LED, obviously all the electrical will be redone as well.
I think I noticed that there were 4 of the existing tree type fixtures like you see in picture number 3 here on screen. But on the new drawing, we're looking at only 2 LED fixtures. Is that correct?
There are 2 there now, and they will be replaced with 2. It's just that the quality of the LED lighting will be far superior to the high pressure sodium that's there now.
Okay, great. Okay, very good. Mr. Chairman, maybe we could open the floor for questions.
Confirmed. Mr. Margon, does that conclude your presentation for the tennis court?
Yes, it does, Mr. Chairman.
All right, commissioners, please raise your hand and the executive director will call upon you to ask questions to the applicant.
Commissioner Walter?
Yeah, one little question. The 2 light posts that are going to be installed, they are within the fence. Wouldn't it make more sense to put them on the outside of the fence so when people are playing tennis, they're not bumping into them?
Actually, the standard in order to provide the level of lighting that's required on the surface itself is to have the lights located as they are. The lights will have the appropriate padding at the base, which is not there presently. But the standard for this type of construction is that as it's presented.
Okay, it looks like they're only like a half a foot inside the fence. And they can be a half a foot outside the fence. I'm sure the standard's not going to be moving by 1 foot.
Everything would change because the lighting levels, everything would have to be revised at that point if that change is made.
It looks like the existing poles on this drawing on screen now are actually much more toward the center of the courts.
They were within the playing area, actually.
Yeah, within the playing area. And I noticed when I was there photographing that they have big foam bumpers next to them to help keep people from getting hurt running into them. That seemed pretty obtuse. But the new poles look like they're way closer to the fence. They're like on the same axis but way to the rear.
Yeah, they are adjacent to the fence, and again, as I said, the reason for locating them where they did was to optimize the level of lighting.
Yeah, right here.
Yes.
Are there other questions?
Yes, this is Chair Tate. So, Mr. Margon, just a quick question about the lighting. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of the operation of it, but circling back to that question about the electrical panel, will the new LED lights that replace the high pressure sodium lights have integrated drivers at the base of them for optimization?
I'm not sure what you mean by integrated drivers.
Well, the high pressure sodium lights, I know that they're controlled in a way that is associated with that panel that's there. But I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of make that panel go away and kind of embed that closer to the lights with a access panel, perhaps.
I guess my preference would be you still need a panel to serve as the junction between the electrical service and the individual runs going to the lights.
Right.
My intention would be to locate the lighting panel outside of the play area on the outside of the fence so it doesn't interfere.
Confirmed.
And that will, I think, resolve the concern that you have in terms of either a potential obstacle for players or, something that's a little unsightly. We'll locate it outside so that it's not something that will be a problem for the players in the future.
Confirmed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, are there any additional questions?
Does not look like there are additional questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do we have a motion to prepare the resolution? Or,
Yes, I believe we do. What we're seeking is to have the commission discuss about the adequacy of the proposal, the scope of work, and the methodology for these two projects, and to provide support or sort of the same way we do for design review, basically. And this will be very important for the application. And it will also go forward to the State Historic Preservation Office with the approval of the commission or the comments that the commission has, because this also needs to be reviewed at the state level. So this review is important for that reason as well. I believe there's a conditional approval resolution prepared.
okay, I think that helps. Secretary, can you read the prepared resolution statement of purpose?
Mr. Chairman, did you hear that?
I did not.
Excuse me. Resolution number 21-13 is the conditional approval of a design review application for the continuation of the East Side Park Improvements Project located at block 8101, lot 1.
Thank you, Tim. Do we have a motion to move and a second?
Commissioners, just remember that you're.
So moved.
Executive Director, you were saying?
Just trying to remind the commissioners that you have to remember to take yourself off mute when you're speaking. So I thought that I was probably interfered with the motion when I said that, but sorry about that.
I heard Commissioner Redmond for the second, and the motion was by,
Correction, I made the motion, Chair.
confirmed. Do we have a second on the floor?
Second.
Mohammed for second?
Yeah, that was America Garcia.
Yes, I heard
Maribel made the second. Maribel made the second.
confirmed. Now that the resolution is on the floor, this is open for discussion. Do we have any comments from the commissioners regarding the application that was just presented by Mr. Fred Margron, city engineer, on behalf of City of Paterson?
Commissioner Walter.
Yeah, I just want to say that this is something that has to be done. It's been a long time since any maintenance has been done on either one of those two areas. So we desperately need something done for those areas. So definitely, I'm for this proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner Walter. This is Chair Tate. I like to follow your sentiment. I'm very familiar with the steps and also the tennis court, and it's good to see that there's some energy being utilized here to activate these areas. I think it's, again, what I said earlier, great for the city, but also that Eastside Park Historic District, and I think it's a very noble project that should happen, just for the sake of the next generation of Patersonians and beyond.
Mr. Chairman, I see no further commentary from the commissioners.
Confirmed. At this point, the discussion is closed, and we don't have any conditions on this. Would it be appropriate to add a maintenance condition here, or is that something that's out of our scope?
Yeah, I don't think that would be appropriate.
Confirmed. With that being said, I'd like to have the secretary sound off on the roll call for the resolution that was placed on the floor.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, to confirm with Vice Chair Rafael recused, we will be taking the vote of both alternates, correct?
Yes, Commissioner Simpson did not show, did he? No, he's not on the list here, so I believe that means that both alternates with Commissioner Rafael recused. Yes, you're correct.
Commissioner Clayton. Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed. Commissioner Ahmed, I thought I heard you, I'm not sure.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo. Commissioner Corbo has responded in the chat. She's having trouble with her microphone. Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excuse me, Timothy, you missed my vote. Commissioner Redmond. And my vote is yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Redmond. Apologies.
Thank you very much, Mr. Margron, and we look forward to hearing progress on your endeavors with this application.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening, everybody.
You as well. With that being said, I'd like to move to item A under new business, which is 130 Market Street, also known as the Leon Font Building. This is a design review of the replacement signage for Market Street storefront following a fire. This will be presented by the property owner. Executive Director, do you have a report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So similar to before, I'm going to put some photos on screen. So just bear with me while I share those. So that we can orient you to the location of the property and the conditions thereupon. Share. Mr. Chairman, do you see the building?
Confirmed.
Okay, this is the subject property in the Downtown Commercial Historic District, 130 Market Street. It's at the corner building here that you see the Blimpie sign prominently. This is a very handsome and excellent architectural piece in the Downtown Commercial Historic District. And the application this evening concerns the storefront signage area. You can see the tarp in this particular photo. Where there was a fire that destroyed the conditions. This is a storefront that is at the rear part of the building. You can see the entrance here to the left of the screen where it actually says L'Enfant Building. This is the entrance, I believe, for the upper floors, the apartments on the upper floors. And this is what remains of the authentic storefront of this one last storefront. And Interestingly, I'd like to point out that the parking lot right adjacent to it, some commissioners may remember that during the filming of West Side Story, the Spielberg film that was shot in Paterson, this parking lot was occupied with a kind of demolition-looking zone. And in the movie, they were portraying the neighborhood sort of being demolished for new buildings to be built. And there was a main store that was near that area that a lot of the movie took place in. I call it the candy store, but this is the actual storefront that was used for those scenes, and I believe even the space inside as well may have been used for those scenes. So this is another photo that I put up to tell you about that. Here's another overview of the building, and a closer view of underneath the blue tarp where you can see the conditions. So I'm going to ask our historic preservation specialist, Tim Henderson, to take over from here to provide us with the report on the rest of this application. Mr. Henderson?
Thank you very much, Director. And I appreciate that introduction to this building. I would just like to add that it is, of course, recognized on the National Register of Historic Places designation for the district. Specifically, the building expresses a hybrid style with Beaux-Arts, Gothic, and also Chicago style. The building is definitely defined by a lot of metalwork, specifically copper, and then also some wrought iron balustrades. The building is largely intact with the exception of the cornice, which was removed sometime in the 1990s. The current ownership has owned the building for a very long time. Blimpie has been a tenant again for a long time. And unfortunately, last February, there was a fire in that Market Street, Hamilton Street corner of the building. The specific cause of the fire is not yet determined, but the property owner, in cooperation with their tenant, is preparing to replace the signage. Now, the issue is that our downtown commercial historic district design guidelines specifically call for a reduction in massing of signage. They call for signage to honor the fabric of the building, the profiles of the building, the silhouette of the building, however you want to describe it. So you can see that there's an accumulation of different phases of signage on the building, which some of our older commissioners might even remember, as the building's in a very prominent location. Director Archimedes and I were not prepared to approve the tenant and the owner's proposal to replace the sign panels that are on that framework that is proud of the building with more printed plastic sign panels. That is what the tenant was proposing, and those panels would have the Blimpie corporate graphics as proposed, as dictated by Blimpie. The tenant does not have a lot of discretion with what type of images are put on the sign, but our control is over the composition of the sign and the installation. So we have brought this application to the commission so that the commission can make some determinations and recommendations as to what should be done with the existing non-conforming signage and what type of signage would be agreeable for the downtown commercial historic district and also for this tenant and the property owners need to keep their building useful and profitable. That concludes my introduction to this application, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Can we have the applicant provide a testimony?
Yes, hi, thanks for having me in this meeting.
Yes, we will need our counsel to swear you in.
Sure.
Do you
Christina?
Yes. Hi. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you state your name for the record?
Imad Bali.
Thank you. Mr. Bally, the floor is yours.
Yes. Well, I'm here because it's been a while. Like Tim said, it's been almost a year since we had this small fire at the building, and unfortunately, it damaged the sign for the store, and my tenant was complaining the whole time she wanted to replace that sign, but we could not do it because of the requirements for the historical department. My thing was like the damage was only like 5 feet, and it was an existing business, and this sign probably been on for the last maybe like 15 years, and even like the store before, like the tenant before, they had almost the same sign but different name for another probably 20 years, and the building was probably built in the 1908, so it's kind of tough to go back to 1908 and preserve it to the way it used to be, and especially that the sign, like the sign on Hamilton Street, if you can just flip to the other side of the sign, it's not damaged at all. Like there's no damage whatsoever to it. So it's kind of tough to go as Tim was Tim kind of requested that we have to replace the whole sign from Hamilton Street and on Market Street. So for us, it was kind of tough with the insurance as well, because since the whole thing happened because of fire, and the sign on the Hamilton side is not damaged whatsoever. There's not even a scratch on it. So it was kind of tough to handle with them. So we are requesting to just replace the sign and make it look presentable for the downtown area. Especially it's a flat sign. It's not like it's just a continuous sign, like just to have just one big piece all together, and there's no damage with it, and we can fix the other damage that's been done to the building or to the store front.
Mr. Bally, does that conclude your testimony?
Well, exactly. Yeah, basically that's it. Like I just wanted to bring your attention that this is an existing sign, and it wasn't like it's the same owner, same business, and it's not like we have a new tenant or anything that is requesting you to put in a new sign to it's been there for quite some years, and I don't know if I can upload some pictures. I can show you. Like I just went back online, and this is this is the way it used to look back in the days as well. Probably 25 years, 30 years, 40 years ago. I'm not sure how old that picture is.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Bally.
Sure.
At this time, I'd like to invite commissioners to ask the applicant questions about the testimony given. Please raise your hand, and the executive director will call upon you as required. This is Chair Tate, Mr. Bally. I'm just curious though, do you have any documents, any drawings, or any illustrations that represent what you're intending to do?
I believe that my tenant, she provided, so first of all, I would like to start with, we want it to be the same, we just want to put that sign, the rest of the sign back, the Blimpie sign. Like if you can look at the top corner here, the frame is there. It's basically just putting the sign again. You see, like to your right, you see the frame, like the whole frame is there. We basically have, it's the old sign, just have to be put back. Basically, they're gonna fix that piece. It's like probably 5 feet long.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Bally?
Yes, I'm sorry, I have my hand raised.
Go ahead,
It's
Commissioner Redmond.
it's not really a question, it's a comment. My comment is that if we're gonna replace the sign, it should be uniform, and I think the sign should be replaced in its entirety, not just from the corner that was damaged.
Well, it's not about replacing the sign. It's about fixing the sign, basically. We're not we're not here, like, it's not a different business, it's not a different, it's the same business, the same store, but we're just, wanna fix that problem that we have.
Yes, but once you fix the problem, the other side of the sign will not look uniform. That's the problem I have.
Well, that's why we wanna keep it the same. If you can allow me to load some picture, I don't know if I never used WebEx before, but if you can if I can send you some pictures and you can take a look how the sign used to look back in the days as well.
Okay,
John Franco?
Mr. Bali,
Yes,
as far as your pictures, what, are you on a phone or on a computer?
on an iPad.
You're on an iPad. Do you have the pictures on your iPad?
Yes.
Okay, I could try to give you the ability to show us those pictures, like right now. So,
Sure.
I'm gonna try to do that. That means I'll have to stop my sharing and then we'll give it a shot so you can illustrate what your point is. So bear with me and I'll try it. Okay, so if I provide you with the giving you the ability to share your screen when you're done, then you'll have to, I believe, give it back to me. Do you see your participant list? Do you see a list of all the people
Yes.
in the meeting? Okay, so when you're done, you'll have to drag up the little icon on your name back up to my name, which is the one on the very top. Okay.
Wait, I don't see it. They're listed. They're not listed like on top of each other. They're listed
Oh, side by side. Okay.
side by side.
No problem. There's another list that lists them all, like just the names with no pictures. But we'll see if we can figure that out. Okay, so now you have the ability to use the button at the bottom of your screen that says share.
I don't know if it came up.
Yeah, I did. I see it.
Okay.
All you might have to do is enlarge it for us because it's kind of small.
Well, the thing is, to be honest with you, I got this from from the net. Like, I went back because unfortunately I don't have old pictures of the sign. This is,
Okay.
this is like, this is the pizzeria that we used to have in the store. I know this, like this tenant. And this tenant, the one down here, the seafood, this is how the sign used to look before. And that's what's underneath the original, like the sign that we have right now. The green, you see the green frame that we have here?
Okay, Mr. Bali, you're talking about the bottom picture where it says seafood, right?
Yes, yes.
And the whole green thing underneath the seafood is what you're talking about, right?
Exactly. And this is like this is what's underneath the sign that we have right now. But except that portion is burned because of the fire, so we have to clean it out. So what we can basically do, we can put that frame back and cover where the sign is and put the new signage on top of it.
Okay, what do you think is going on with pizzeria? The picture up on top. What is that?
Well, the same. I'm just showing this. This is the picture that I got from like I told you, from online, and this is I'm just showing this picture too because this is how the sign used to look for the past, probably 20, 30, 40 years. So it's not.
So is the pizzeria buffet sign, when you say the past 20, 30 years, is that the one or is the seafood one the one
No.
you're referring to?
Well, the seafood, I'm not really sure when exactly this store was, to be honest with you. So like this is an old picture of the building. I'm just showing an old picture of how the sign used to look, and this is and so I'm just trying to make a case here that we could put back the green frame, like the wood frame here, and put the new signage on top of it.
Okay.
Because that's what's actually underneath the existing sign right now.
Yes. Do you have additional photos to show?
No, this is it.
Commissioners, are there questions about these photos?
Mr. Bali, this is the chair.
Yes.
I'm just curious to know, have you, I understand that you spoke about insurance and all those different things. Have you considered removing the substrate or the existing supports below the sign where this old seafood stuff was, and consider a new sign for that area? This is a very prominent corner in this district, and I'm just curious to know if that was something that you considered when you were sort of moving along with kind of rectifying the situation here.
To be honest with you, no, because like I said, it's been like this for quite a few years, and this is the way we know it. I don't know, it wasn't really into consideration, no. To be honest with you, we just wanted to fix the problem, and the best way we realized and the most economical way is to just fix this frame and put the sign back. Especially that the other sign on Hamilton Street is not damaged, and it's an existing existing store. Because to be honest, even like with the signage, there's a conflict between my insurance and the tenant's insurance. Because I'm responsible for fixing that frame. He's responsible for putting up her own sign.
Thank you.
So it's a conflict basically between insurances. Well,
Okay, Mr. Bali, could you go to your sharing,
stop sharing?
Try to
Yeah.
stop sharing?
Yes.
Great, okay. Got it, all right. Okay, now I'm going to, I'll put the photo that I had on before. Okay, so that's the photo. You see that photo now, that close-up photo?
Yes, you see the green green line over here. I said this is what's underneath the existing sign, basically.
Yeah, and this has been
So
is what you were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we want to fix that wood frame, like wood panel behind the existing sign, so my tenant can put her own sign on on top of it.
Okay. So I'm looking for here's the list. All right. So are there any other questions, commissioners? Mr. Chairman, it doesn't look like there are any other questions for the applicant.
Okay, Secretary, do you have a prepared resolution statement of purpose?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Resolution number 2114 is the conditional approval of a design review application for the property located Resolution number 2113 is the conditional approval of a design review application for the property located at 130 Market Street, block 6201, lot 1.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. At this time, I'd like to request a motion for this prepared resolution.
Motion?
Second.
I believe I heard Vice Chair Rafael for the motion and a second by Commissioner Garcia Leon. Is that correct?
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Now that the resolution is on the floor, the application is up for discussion by the commissioners.
Okay, Commissioner Walter?
Okay, this sign is a disaster. The framework, that metal framework that sticks out past the building in the corner should not be there at all. The sign is too big for the location in the building. I think we should deny this application to replace the sign like it was, because it shouldn't really have been like it was.
Commissioner Raffel?
Hi, yes, my comment really is, I wanted to know what the HPC office and staff thought upon accepting this application and what potentially recommendations they had in mind on how to address this.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. So, as Secretary Henderson mentioned in the beginning during our introduction of the application, the Downtown Commercial Historic District guidelines state that, you know, when the guidelines were first done, we understood that over a long period of time, sometimes going back to the 1950s, then the 60s and so forth, that signage has been added on top of and on top of and on top of again, one sign on top of the other on top of the other. And this condition has added a tremendous amount of bulk and scale to buildings and has actually detracted from the architectural elements of these buildings. So this isn't like always the case, but there are a lot of examples of this being the case in the buildings throughout the downtown. So in laying out the guidelines, it was provided that new applications that come in, our guidance was to minimize and seek to remove the excessive layers that have accumulated over time, and to get back to the building's original sign condition and or to remove any masking or hiding of the architectural elements. So that's sort of where the guidance comes from in the guidelines, and we've had over the years a lot of success in achieving our goals for this very topic. So unfortunately, we're not really sure, similar to what Mr. Bali testified to, we're not really sure when the last approval was for this signage. We may not have seen this sign being installed for Blimpie, which is the current business. I'm not sure how long they've been there. But as you can see from the photo on screen, and current with both what Mr. Henderson said and to Commissioner Walter's point, and also to Mr. Bali's point, there is a framework, a light steel framework that was placed over all the rest of the signage below it, just to cover it up. This is very typical of what we see in conditions in the downtown. So Mr. Bali pointed out, kind of exactly what a point I'm making. The green, like what looks like wood that we saw in the one photo that he put on screen, and that subsequently has caught fire and has been destroyed here. Well, now that the green is gone, we can see the green was attached to these thin strips of wood, probably nailed to it, on top of another sign. We can see the ghosting. I'm kind of running my hand over the screen now. You can see the ghosting of a sign to which the strips were attached. And underneath that, this kind of smoky white area with the outline of the letter R seems to be one of the last, with the nice curve here. There's probably even signage, or could be signage even underneath this one. This one can go back maybe to the 30s, for example, based on its styling and based on the lettering that I see here. You can see the K in Ghost, and you can see the R in Ghost. So we have represented in this photo 1, 2, 3, and then including the current one, 4 levels of signage. And the HPC staff is directed by guidelines to, upon getting new applications, to set things right, not to repair the damage, but rather to request that we go back as far as possible to do with some more appropriate treatment for the signage rather than to fix it and put it to a condition that the guidelines don't support. And that's the reason why Mr. Bali is here today, and that's the question really in front of the commission. I think Mr. Bali was very clear about his intent to, want to just replace the damaged part due to fire, to bring the condition back to what it was before the fire. I think he and the tenant feel that they have a right to that condition that existed prior to the fire. He indicated that the long sign along the other street is not damaged and it's in good condition and serviceable. And look, why should he replace that is the question I think he's asking. So the proposal is that he just replace what's damaged. This is what I guess the insurance is there to pay for. And our HPC guidelines as staff have brought this to the commission's attention because that's not what the guidelines call for us to approve. At this point, it's at the discretion of the commission. It's up to the commission in terms of this resolution to either allow Mr. Bali's tenant to do exactly what he said, replace the damaged portion. I'm guessing here, I'm going to move this over, this picture. You can actually see on the other end of the blimpie where my hand is moving on screen, you can see the end of the framework, of the steel framework where it says blimpie. So I'm making an assumption that the sign would be changed from here to the corner where it meets the other sign where it makes an angle or a corner. And that is the extent of what he feels he would want to replace. The other side would stay the same and it would go back to the way it was. So being that there was a fire and sort of a new application, we're guided by the guidelines to correct the condition that is not conforming. And so it's really up to the commissioners to decide which way to go on this. If the commissioners would decide to have the old signage removed in preference of a new one, it would incur this cost to the tenant of putting another sign on the other side, or to Mr. Bali as the owner to correct the old sign condition, for example, if they're going to share these expenses. So there's definitely a lot of work to be considered if that's the direction the commission is going, as opposed to what Mr. Bali is proposing.
I just make a point of interest, just so anybody notices, does it look like a Minuteman on that original sign at the corner?
You are correct, Commissioner Walter. It is.
It's right here where my hand is that Commissioner Walter is talking about. The interesting part about this too is that the sign area, as it were, is not blocking. You can see this wonderful pressed copper work. There is a piece that's missing right here, but other than that, the sign is not covering any details of the building. Now, I'm making an assumption that the entire storefront has been changed from authentic, and possibly the original signboard for this building was much smaller. But be it as it may, the storefront is not the topic of the application, and the sign area is sort of the way as it's established between the copper cornice and the rolling gate here that exists. So a new sign would be made to fit in this area, and it could be done in an appropriate way that again would our call for this would be to remove all of these layers, possibly down to this Minuteman layer, and then from there attach a new sign, something appropriate, or even explore what's underneath this sign to get back to authentic conditions. But when we get to this point, I've seen it time and time again when we get to this point with other buildings, that this white sign area, when they attached it how many years ago, decades and decades ago, they most likely changed the fabric of the building to where it's almost impossible to now go back, or to reverse that. If you were to remove this white piece, it's most likely there would be a large, hole looking into the ceiling, the drop ceiling of the first floor, into the very structural framework of the building. So we wouldn't be able to achieve that, all the way back to the very beginning. It's likely we would start at this level, is my educated opinion about this from other projects and conditions that we've seen in the district. So this would minimize the bulk of the new sign in effect, and that is what that is the way that we've been handling these applications time and time again. Any other comments?
This is Chair Tate. I agree. I think, and I understand where Mr. Bali's coming from with this idea of direct replacement, but I understand where we stand with our guidelines, and I think at least bringing it back to that layer where the R is, removing the substrate, the thin strips, and kind of infilling any substrate for the new sign, I think would be appropriate if we decided to go that route. I just think, what happens is if we just fill in that little area, that 5-foot area, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a building, essentially. And, that's such a prominent corner. It's right across the street from City Hall. There's a lot of neoclassical buildings in the area, and not that this is what the application is about, but I just want to add context to sort of the location of all of this, and also the durability and kind of bring it back to scale in a way, in the way that it's represented. So that's my thoughts on it.
Chair Tate, may I add something?
Yes, please.
I just want to share with the commission that, as Director Archimedes pointed out, the copper work on the bay, and then the corners of the storefront there, where there's the piece that had to be cut out from fire damage. The property owner has sourced a piece of replacement metal for that single section. The pattern very nearly replicates what was there, and Director Archimedes was able to administratively approve that. What we have not been able to discuss with the applicant yet is how to patentate that metal to match the rest of the building, but the property owner does have plans to properly correct the missing section of the cornice there.
Confirmed. Thank you very much for that piece of information.
Mr. Chair, if I could clarify this motion that's on the floor. We have a motion and a prepared resolution for conditional approval. But what is the conditional approval for? So the conditional approval would be for the application that we received and what it proposes. So this would be for an approval, like a yes vote on this motion would be to Mr. Bali's point. He has proposed to replace the extent of the signage that you see that's damaged. Again, I'm making an assumption that you can't just start here where pizza is cut off or PIZ is cut off, but rather would probably go back to Blimpie and just replace it in kind with whatever this material is. It looks like a kind of aluminum or vinyl, perhaps, stretched across this frame. And we don't even approve vinyl signage any longer in the district according to the guidelines. So his application is to do that work. And the motion that's on the floor is to conditionally approve that work. So if you wanted to not approve that work, you would vote no on this roll call, and instead, we could indicate that you'd have to indicate, like verbally say for the record, what your preference is. If you're going to deny this application, then your preference would be to go back to the guidelines or what? Like we had some comments made by Commissioner Walter. I gave you a lot of details and technical information about what I believe is possible and not possible. So someone needs to vocalize that, and that would be the way it would have to go. You'd have to provide us with guidance on how to get Mr. Bali's work to go forward from here, because as he indicated, this has been a really complicated process. Not to mention the insurance companies were in conflict, and it took a long time to sort that out. So we would like to make sure that he gets some resolution to this evening.
Confirmed. I see Commissioner Walter's hand is up.
Yes, I'd like to propose that the sign be completely removed down to at least the level of where those battens are, and to see what's behind where the white sign with the R is, and that could be all infilled with wood, and then an appropriate sign could be added on to there. That's what I would like to see.
Thank you, Commissioner Walter. This is Chair Tate, and I tend to agree. If you look at that substrate that's to the left of the R with the strips, it just seems like it's and I'm sure there's ways to patch all of this up, but it just seems like it's the degradation could lead to further issues down the line. And I'm just wondering if we, with the possibility of just leaving the other side, Hamilton Street side alone, and just kind of removing it down to the R, exploratory probes, and patch and repair, and then, place the signage, the appropriate sign back on that Market Street side. So we would essentially remove the strips, the substrate there, and basically superimpose the new sign on whatever modified substrate goes above or flush with that R, depending on what's behind it.
That won't work because the Hamilton Street sign juts out from the building to make a square corner rather than the angled corner that the original signs had. So you either have to go all the way to the right with the existing framework, or you have to get rid of it all because it's just not going to line up.
Well, they could add blocking. They could add blocking or some kind of surface to make it level. What I'm saying is, where the new sign is, they would have to basically patch up that face, depending on, underneath that green area, it might not be as bad as we think, It could be just kind of leveling out the structure where those strips are, and that could solve the whole thing right there. But I tend to believe that, we're not going to get this back to, the turn of the century or, whenever this thing was developed. But I think bringing some integrity back to it would be important. And I get it. I understand the applicant's concern, just kind of bringing it back to what it was. But now that we see what's below it, I think it's important that we take some action in rectifying it. This doesn't have to be an extremely surgical exercise, but I think to some degree there has to be some investigation to reveal some of the existing decayed structure that could possibly be replaced for a longer life cycle on a sign like this in this district.
Well, you are looking at the corner. That's the problem. The corner has been built out, and you want to keep it built out like that?
Personally, I would bring it back to where, closer to the normal or the existing, the historic.
Yeah, but that means you have to remove the sign on the Hamilton Street side too, because it is going to the squared corner, not to the corner of the building. It sticks out from the building.
No, I understand that. I understand that the new sign is proud of the previous signage. What I'm saying is, if we kept that Hamilton Street side, and all of the investigations happen specifically on the Market Street side, then it would become a patch and repair job more for the integrity of it. And I mean, Secretary Henderson outlined the fact that the copper above will be, replaced to, close enough to kind of patch that up. I'm just wondering, I mean, the reality of it is there's no way we're going to bring it back to the historic concept of what it once was unless this whole thing is demolished. And that's, from what I'm understanding from the commission, we want to make this least invasive as possible so that Mr. Bali can get the frontage back with his tenant.
Basically, you're telling him patch up the sign the way it is. Okay.
Well, I'm saying patch up the sign the way it is, but do the extra step of revealing what's behind it and removing some of the unnecessary layers to get it back to, where it needs to be.
So, I'm sorry. You're talking about having the large sign the way it is, the inappropriate to our guideline sign the way it is, and basically just patching it up. Because what else are you going to do?
Well, that's the application. That's the application on the floor for the most part.
And I'm saying we should deny that application. But I'm respectfully getting out of this conversation now. You all know my opinion. Let some other commissioners give their opinions.
Commissioner Redmond, and thank you, Commissioner Walter.
Yes, I was just about to agree with Commissioner Walter. I don't approve of the signage, but since we have the motion on the floor, I was gonna say just let us vote on it. We understood each side of it. We heard your side and we heard Commissioner Walter's side. So we should just get a vote on it and then give direction to the director.
Yeah, so this is the director. Just to clarify again, the motion on the floor is for conditional approval of the application that the applicant made. We heard his testimony, and that is to repair this portion back to its condition prior to the fire. So consistent with what Commissioner Walter and Commissioner Redmond said, if you take a roll, if you're going to vote on this application and you don't want to approve, you'll have to vote no. And if you vote yes, then you're voting yes for the applicant to just replace this portion back to its pre-fire condition. Just want to clarify that.
Right, and I just want to add a little bit more clarity to my thinking on this. I think I might not have been clear with how I articulated it. What I'm saying is, if we went back to the pre-fire condition, what I'm saying is we do an exploratory probe behind the sign, the Blimpie sign, and remove some of the existing layers. We'll keep the framework on the Hamilton side, just so that there's more integrity with the new signage, instead of just placing that, 8 by 3.5 foot patch area. I think the tributary area has to be the entire signage on Market Street, but I think some surgery is required in order to rectify some of the decayed infrastructure that exists behind it, which is unknown at this particular moment, except for what we see on the screen.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, these comments are confusing the motion at this moment. My recommendation is consistent with what Commissioner Redmond just said. There's a motion on the floor. It's very straightforward. We've had a lot of discussion. If what you're talking about is another methodology that could be made in a separate motion after this motion is resolved, I think that would be the easiest way to do this, because it's going to become very confusing. Other than if we do it other than that way. So the motion on the floor, there's been discussion, we've had a couple of opinions about how this might go. And then subsequent to this motion, if this motion fails, then there could be another motion as to what could be done. Another motion could be to have the new signage conform to the guidelines that we have, and we can go and read those guidelines and look carefully at them, for example. That's another thing that we can do. We can do that in the office, we can do that live here tonight. That will be up to you. But I have to respectfully ask if we can just keep this simple at this point.
Confirmed.
Can I add something? Like, can I comment on something here?
No, actually, you cannot, sir. Your
Okay.
time for testimony is over.
Okay.
Are there any other comments by the commissioners?
Doesn't appear to be any further comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Executive Director. The discussion is now closed. And do we have a motion to approve?
We have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
You have to call the roll.
Can we get the roll call for the motion that's on the floor currently?
Commissioner Garcia Leon,
no.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo,
No.
Commissioner Redmond,
No, and my vote will be no and refer back to the historical guidelines.
thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Rafael,
Abstain.
Commissioner Simpson, Commissioner Walter,
No.
Chair Tate,
No.
motion fails.
This is Commissioner Walter. Could I suggest that maybe the staff could confer with the applicant and maybe they can come up with a better proposal for our next meeting so that we can vote on it then? Maybe something that works out better.
Yes, so Commissioner Walter, this is the director. We do this, we did this actually during the December meeting. When you can make a motion, sending the applicant back to the staff for further discussion about the application, for representation at the next meeting. I think that's what you're looking for. So if you were to make that motion, we would take a vote on that, and that would be some formal action that would give us direction as to which way to go with the applicant.
That sounds like a perfect plan. I make that motion.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, you're on mute.
Confirmed.
Commissioner Garcia Leon, Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo,
Yes, by chat.
thank you, Commissioner Corbo, Commissioner Redmond,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael,
Yes.
Commissioner Walter,
Yes.
Chair Tate,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bali, so we're going to be talking to you this week. We'll go over this in greater detail. We'll see if we can come to some better conclusions to represent to the commission. We'll continue to talk with you and continue to come out to the building to look at the conditions.
Okay, sure.
Thank you for attending the meeting this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. Bali.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
At this time, under item number 7, new business, we'd like to go to item B. This is the rehabilitation of Spruce Street Bridge spanning the Middle Raceway. Vice Chair Kelly Rafael, on behalf of Passaic County, shall present only part of the Passaic County NJ.TAP Spruce Street Gateway project related to the bridge rehabilitation proposal for comment and input by the commission. Just as a note, no formal action will be taken.
Thank you. Gianfranco, do you have any pictures of the bridge to share?
Yes, I'm going to open that now. Commissioners, I sent around in your pre-meeting packages a report that the county forwarded through their consulting engineer regarding this portion of the application. I'm going to bring that up. It's right here. It's in a PDF format. It's very thorough, and we have some photos here of the bridge and the current conditions. So this is what you were looking for. Are you seeing this on screen now?
Yes.
I am.
Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. So the county is undergoing 2 projects simultaneously. One is the Spruce Street Bridge, which is under construction, and the sort of, I'm going to say, redesign of the Spruce Street Gateway. And what this project, or the purpose of this project really is to upgrade all of the streetscape amenities along Spruce Street to improve safety for pedestrians, enhance overall appearance. And this full report is expected to be completed within the month or so. The last element of the report is in fact the Middle Raceway and how we should address it. So the consultants who are hired by the DOT prepared sort of an executive summary and sort of their recommendations on how to handle the Middle Raceway. So the images that Gianfranco are showing are taken directly from the report. So I'm just gonna kind of bullet what their sort of improvements that they would like to make to this bridge. So one is the removal and replacement of existing concrete sidewalks, which I don't think you can see them very well in this image particularly. They would actually like to remove the existing bridge railing and end pylons and replace it with new custom architectural rail that actually matches the pedestrian railing that was installed at the West Broadway Bridge over the Passaic, which I believe was reviewed by the HPC quite a few years ago. That is also a historic bridge. They would like to repair the shallow minor spalls and minor cracks at the underside of the arch, which I think there is a clear image of that. And they want to reset and repoint any of the loose masonry blocks and fill sort of voids with sort of this cementitious, non-metallic, non-shrinking masonry grout. And then the last thing they would like to do is remove and depose the existing, I guess there's like a 4-inch diameter conduit, so they want to remove that. Now, at the end of this packet, actually that's the perfect page. Can you scroll one more down? And just for reference, my understanding of this bridge is that the original, and it's actually right here on the screen, the original construction was in 1903, and obviously it's been modified over time. It is a county asset, so I'm sure the county has changed it several times. So the design that you see in front of you, is sort of what they're proposing to put back in place. Today, the railing is sort of mimics the Great Falls Historic District guidelines and that sort of industrial feel that was done when the district was nominated. So, I think in one way the consultants are looking at more conservative approach. So that's really sort of what they're looking at feedback on this at the moment. The other thing I will note is they're proposing, if you look in this rendering, this concrete end post. There will only be one, and then there'll be a plaque on it. Personally, I've already wrote to the consultant and advised that I was not in favor of the concrete post. But that is currently where the plans are at. So the purpose of this is to get your feedback and your thoughts. I will take it back to the consultant, and Gianfranco's been involved in this project as well. We will take it back to them. They will finalize the entire Spruce Street gateway, design package, and then we'll present the whole thing within a meeting or so. But they didn't want to kind of leave this bridge out by itself, if that makes sense. And I guess the last thing to note that this project overall will only go up to Oliver Street. I mean, the intent was to go all the way down to the intersection of Grand, but there is no funding for that portion, so that'll be at a later phase. Any questions?
Thank you,
It
Vice
looks
Chair.
like Commissioner Walter.
Yeah, just an observation, the railing is gorgeous, but is it appropriate for an industrial neighborhood type thing? And what would be on the plaque? Is it gonna be, somebody did this great thing or something?
Yeah, so the plaque would mimic exactly what's on the West Broadway bridge. Actually, it's also on the McBride culvert. All culverts and bridges throughout the county have a bridge plaque that I think, constructed in XYZ, built by blah, blah, blah. So that would just be a standard bronze plaque. And then the railing, I agree, I think it is very decorative, almost too decorative for the district. However, again, they were trying to mimic the original design, which I'm not even sure if there's photographs of the original design, other than the drawings that we had in engineering.
Okay, this is Director Archimedes. A couple of comments I'd like to add to Kelly's presentation. First off, I'm not really clear about just to take off on that point, this drawing looks very much, without being able to, the drawing that's on screen now, I'm gonna blow it up again. Without being able to really read it, the handwriting on the drawing, because it's a scan, I can't really tell if this is the bridge, the exact bridge that is referenced here that we're talking about. I have a strong feeling that it is, a strong feeling that this reference drawing, we'd be hard pressed to find that this was anything else. I'm saying this because not only does it look visually like the photo that I showed you, but also the depth of this water body doesn't look very deep, and it very much looks like the raceway. If we had the title block, which somehow or another was omitted from what he showed us, this is, to me, a kind of flip out of a larger plan, for example. This would make all the difference in the world with regard to our mandate to be authentic. So that's one of the missing pieces here, I believe, in this puzzle. Now, let's talk about the vehicular bridge for a moment. The Vehicular Bridge, we know a lot about its history. There's probably been 5 different, as many as 3 to 4 different bridges that span the Passaic in that vicinity of where the current bridge is. We know that the pilings for the current bridge are taken directly from a 1930s bridge that was literally demolished in the 80s to replace it with the standard flat top bridge that the county gave us without any historic review whatsoever or consideration. And I don't mean that that was negligent. I mean that there was probably no mechanism for that historic review to happen at that time. And this is just a standard way of replacing a bridge in a very practical way. So that's what was done. And in our efforts to replace that bridge and create a more aesthetic sense of the bridge that was destroyed, meaning the 1930s bridge, we went through a lot of trouble to work with the county engineers and the consulting engineers to put together a balustrade and a configuration for the new construction that would harken back or mimic the design of the 1930s. So we're sort of on record as to doing this. Like if we don't have the authentic artifact, we're looking for some clues as to what would be best to go there. So we did that with the vehicular bridge. In this case, if there's a drawing like the one that's on screen now, and this is the bridge that was improved in 1903, as Kelly said, and as I just mentioned, bridges get improved over their life. They get changed, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. So I think our job is to sort of look at as much information as we can glean and do the best that we can with regard to its design. So the West Broadway Bridge project now, as another reference point, we had the authentic we had photos of when the bridge was rehabilitated after a flood destroyed a good part of it. We had a lot of material to work with in terms of how to recreate this railing and to put the railing back in a way that was represented on a variety of historic documents that we could really put our finger on. The piling was designed by the county engineers, again specifically with the photos in mind and reference. So here's the piling on screen now. This is a block of concrete with chamfers. It's decorative. It's got a hole in the top to possibly put a light pole, for example, like the ones on the West Broadway Bridge. And then this plaque, which is typical of all county bridges, they actually get their, sort of historic, if we know the information about who designed the bridge, who built it, the age of the bridge, it's all on the plaque, along with the board of county commissioners, and usually their names and the date that it was replaced and the engineer who did the design for the replacement. That's all the information that is pretty standard for all the county bridges and culverts, as Kelly pointed out. So what Kelly did not really get correct on the presentation was that according to, we'll find the other drawing, there's actually 4 of these concrete pilings go at either end of the railing, just like you see here. There would be one on either side of the of each side of the bridge. So I got to find that detail. I don't know why I'm not finding it. Here it is. This is the one. It's this big plan right here.
And I just want to add, because we're talking about the history of the bridge, that it was modified and rehabilitated in 1966. And I believe it was also widened. So a lot of, again, just going back to historic finishes, were probably altered at that time, or changed out at that time.
So I've blown this up on screen now. I hope this makes a little more sense. This elevation shows the 2 blocky proposed concrete endpoints that I just described, one here and one here at either end. It shows the ornamental railing. Here's the note for it as well. And it shows behind it the existing, that existing railing that would be demolished. And the existing railing has, the context of the existing railing is simply the 1980s installation that we see throughout the historic district for this sort of pipe and ball and rail methodology. And that was just nicely consistent with the rest of the streetscape design, and that's how they addressed, changing the railing out from whatever it was, as Kelly said, possibly in the 1960s. So with all that said, if we were to take the drawing, the 1903 drawing, as an authentic drawing for this bridge, we would have the basis to approve it exactly, as presented here. To have a nice, ornamental railing with this this brownstone ashlar finished and beautiful arch of the bridge, very much in the same styling as the West Broadway Bridge. There would be probably every reason to believe that the improvements to the West Broadway Bridge, leaving it as rendered in the late 1890s, and then this improvement coming in 1903 would have been exactly the same or carried out the same way for consistency at the time. So I think we would, that is something that we could prove as like historical documentation, or just on kind of like a good assessment. Here's a top view of the same configuration, the two concrete pilings at the end with the ornamental railing in between. Going back to the original drawing, just one of my last point here is, my last point is, on this side of the drawing, the right-hand side of the drawing shows the structure of the bridge, which is all cast concrete. The right side shows the ashlars, the brownstone ashlars are sort of placed over the concrete. So again, assuming that this is the bridge that we're looking at, the bridge is a 1903 structure. This is not a sandstone bridge or an iron bridge. It's a concrete bridge that's typical of this period, and the ashlars are decorative, and they're actually affixed, or they're a veneer actually on the concrete. So I want you to keep that in mind as well in terms of like whatever decision that you might make. So after all that said, I've tried to point out some different ways of being able to evaluate this. My opinion would be that if we can ascertain that this is a drawing from 1903 of that renovation of the bridge that's similar to the West Broadway Bridge, we have a very strong case to approve it as it's proposed. The other way, as Rich Walters said, if it's more up in the air about its authenticity and so forth, then you might think about, does this railing really fit into the historic district? The West Broadway Bridge is not really as much a part of the Great Falls district as this bridge is. So you might want to think of it that way. I tend to think of it the way that the drawing is made, and that this bridge was a reconstruction from soup to nuts in 1903.
Thank you.
Can I just say, are they gonna use the historic district scoring pattern on the new sidewalks on it?
Yes, and granite curbing, so the entire stretch of Spruce Street in the project area, they will have to comply with our lighting standards, which I know Gianfranco has worked with them on, and our scoring pattern and materials that we use.
So at this point, I think everyone's heard a lot of this information and thoughtfulness about this, and we would like to have some more input from the commissioners about what your feelings are based on what we showed you. Do you think we should tell the engineers to, let's say if we can establish that this drawing is really of that bridge, should we go with this? Should we tell them this is a good idea? Or should we say, well, the ship has sailed, let's let's think of a different railing and we can work with them to design something different. Clearly, the existing conditions of the railing that's there are really need to be addressed, probably for safety as well as just for aesthetics, because it's kind of in bad shape. And I think they want to be able to make that improvement because they're improving the entire corridor and they're not going to leave this condition as it is. Now, would it be fair to tell them to replace this railing, like to take it out, rehab it, and put it back? That might be another suggestion.
John Franco, Rich, if they are pretty confident that original picture is original to that bridge, then it's appropriate to put that railing on it, and we should approve it as is. If they don't, then we should consider a different railing.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Walter. Commissioner Corbo has written in that she also wants to say she would accept the 1903 drawing as an accurate representation of the original bridge and think the proposal is fine as is. Same thing as you just said, Commissioner Walter. Commissioner Redmond?
I agree with both the commissioners on their takes of it. So if this is appropriate, I definitely agree with the proposal as is.
Okay, thank you. Mohammed? What do you think? Okay, great. Kelly, do you think we have enough input at this point?
It seems it's sort of going as is. No, I think this is enough, and I can relay back to Chris tomorrow.
Yeah, we can also just have them look more closely at this drawing, because clipping it out like this in the scan can make all the difference in learning more about the drawing, the way I said earlier. So that's another question to ask.
It could even simply something be that the original drawings they looked at, but they never scanned them, and that was probably the only scan. But I will confirm also with engineering on their plans.
Thank you.
That concludes my presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rafael. At this time, I'd like to move back up to item number 4, Administrative Matters. We have a new commissioner, so we'll do a new commissioner introduction from Mr. Kenneth Clayton, Executive Director.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a resignation of Sonia Galise, who was in this seat, and Mayor Saya sought to appoint Mr. Clayton for the Sonia's unexpired term. So her term was to expire at the end of this summer, and if Mr. Clayton can stay on with us, if the mayor cares to reappoint him at that time, then he'll just be reappointed and continue to serve in that capacity. But that's the background on Mr. Clayton's presence at the board. So I had the chance to meet him and to do our first training session together to prepare him for his first meeting tonight, and we'll continue to follow up with training. But I'd like to invite him to say hello and to introduce himself to the commission.
Thank you, Mr. John Franco. Good evening, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here for my first meeting. Nice to meet you all and hear from you all. Just to give you a little background, I was born and raised in Paterson, New Jersey. I went to college and graduated from American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts. I previously worked on the Governor Murphy campaign, where I was the political assistant for the campaign. And basically now I'm honored to be on this commission. After having the first meeting today, it was a pleasure to hear all the applications, all the words that people said. I think it's a very good learning experience, and I hope to keep learning every meeting. And one day, hopefully, I'll be able to meet you all in person and just be able to gain a good relationship with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton, and welcome aboard. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Joyce Corvo writes in, welcome Kenny, looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to move to item number 5, committee reports. Executive Director, do we have anything there?
I don't believe we have committee reports, but if anyone has a committee report, this would be the time.
Confirmed. I think we don't have any reports. So with that being said, let's move on to old business and correspondence. Executive Director, can you provide us a report from A through D?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for item A, old business, 9-11 Spruce Street, AKA the Great Falls Industrial Park, also known as the Art Factory. Commissioners recall our last meeting was in December 2021, and we were looking at an application for the demolition of building number 13, machine shop at the former Dolphin Jute Mill site. The conclusion of, after we heard testimony from professionals and we listened to the application and we discussed it, the commission asked for the application to be adjourned pending further discussion and investigations between the staff and the applicant. So I did send around in the pre-meeting packet a detailed a letter to the applicant's attorney vis-a-vis a possibility of a mitigated measure for the demolition application. I also noted in the letter what we found to be the case after reviewing minutes with regard to the sentiments of the commissioners and what was being discussed. It seemed like not everyone was going toward conditional demolition. Other commissioners were headed in a somewhat different direction. So that was all laid out in the letter along with the proposal. So Mr. Rubin, the attorney, asked if we would consider an adjournment of the matter until next month. He unfortunately could not attend due to a scheduling conflict. And so we've agreed to adjourn further hearing on this until next time when they can be present. So that's what's going on, and that's the background on this. So we look forward to continue to speak with Mr. Rubin on this matter and have additional information to present to you at next month's meeting. I wanted to give you some brief reports on item B of our usual updates for you and for folks who are listening at home about our construction projects at the Great Falls National Park. Hinchliffe Stadium continues to move forward rather aggressively, and everything is looking really good. I had some photos to show you of construction to date, but I think I'm going to forego it due to the time. I'll let you know that we were meeting now to discuss the sensitive matter that I told you about in the past regarding the large sign panels that are like over the entrances on the facade of the building, like where the ticket booth entrances are. And we have a consulting engineer now that's looking into the viability of demoing all the panels and replacing them with precast units due to their extensive degradation and the difficulty in trying to repair them and then being able to certify that they'll remain in a sound condition over a long period of time. And again, remember that the main entrances for the stadium are those four gated entrances. And in the case of any emergency, if you can imagine thousands of people watching an event, if there's an emergency that the building needs to be vacated, the signage will probably direct them to vacate through the same entrances. So it's very important that those entrances remain stable, sound, and safe for the next 150 years. And this is what's being considered right now. So we may actually be demolishing the panels due to their poor condition and replacing them with new so that they can be certified as safe going forward. That's one of the topics that we're talking about. We also have been involved with a preliminary interpretive plan for the new interpretive space that's in the new building at the bottom of the stadium, basically. And I'd like to commend the developers for bringing in some team members who have expertise in this aspect and have been reaching out to the various players and folks who know a lot about the, we'll call them stakeholders, I guess, who know a lot about the stadium and are giving opinion as to how the interpretation should shape up. This includes the Negro League's museum, for example, and the National Park Service, Friends of Initial Stadium, et cetera. So that's another important development that I think is you should know about. And the framework, the steel framework for the new building is erected. You can actually see the skeleton of it now. If you haven't been by there in a while, that's something new that you'll see. There's been a lot of work on the long Maple Street facade, an incredible amount of detailed concrete repair that I encourage you all to take a look at if you have the chance while it's still visible. It's really impressive to see this work underway. So in general, a new retaining wall has been laid out at the scoreboard end of the field, and big pilings were put in place where the scoreboard anchor kind of feet will be installed in the ground. So that's another development that came forward, and there's just continues to be a lot of great activity going on at the construction site. We really are anticipating that all of this year will be needed for construction, but they may be very close to completing the project by the end of the year, into the beginning of 2023. So it's gonna. I have a feeling it's going to be here before we know it. It's going to be an incredible moment for our city. So as for Quarry Lawn, I'm pleased to say that there's going to be a press event. It includes the congressman and the DEP commissioner from the state this Friday, and they'll be discussing the various funding sources that are coming in to kind of renew the public's interest in the Quarry Lawn project. And on Monday, after Friday is the event, and then on that Monday, the bids will actually go out onto the street for that project. So as you know, it's been a long time in planning. It's a very complicated project, and we're very much looking forward to what really is the beginning of the construction period with the announcement of the bids. So the bidding period is a little over 30 days, and we won't know who the bidders are or what the prices are until that time is over, and then we'll be looking for the next step, which would be to evaluate the bids and see if we can make an award. And if we can make an award, we go through the city council to do that, and then the construction phase will get started shortly after that. So we were looking at Quarry Lawn getting into construction this spring if everything goes well with the bidding process. So I'm very excited about that. As for item C, Lou Costello Memorial Park is still under construction. There is going to be a press event for a brief announcement about the park, again, to keep everyone updated. We are looking, however, to bring people back for a much larger opening ceremony when the weather gets warmer and better. We're shooting toward the month of June because we have some sensitive parts of the park regarding the interpretive portions that need to be installed during warm weather. And it just won't be warm enough to make these stone engravings that we're planning to, we've kind of laid out now. There's a new bronze plaque with some bas reliefs being produced, and that's got a long lead time. So we're again planning for a kind of larger event in celebration of the legacy of Lou Costello and the different amenities and elements that we've installed in the park in that regard to be looking forward to June. For the most part, the sods and the plantings should be installed by then. I saw the lighting was installed recently. Additional concrete has been poured, but as you know, it's still cold. And there's only a limited amount they can do with concrete and planting work until the weather really turns over, which is still kind of a couple months away. With regard to the Spruce Street Bridge, item C2. They've just started to do the other side of the deck, which is very exciting, meaning that the one side is almost complete. Now we're driving on the new side of the bridge now. It's also a really cool thing to see if you cross over the bridge. Now you'll see the huge piles of demolished concrete laying in the street on Front Street from the other side of the deck, which they've just finished demolishing. So all the concrete is sitting there now, and obviously they're going to be carting it away probably over the next week or so. So it's a cool thing to see if you drive over. Take a look at that. As far as item 6D, as you know, we've also been finishing up our design on the Danforth Memorial Improvement Project. We are really just another week or two away from having a bidding date for this important project. So by our next meeting, I expect to be reporting to you that it is already out to bid, and we're looking forward to getting that project kicked off into construction in the spring as well. Now, the same status, just to back up a moment, with Quarry Lawn, I don't have listed here the Visitor Center update, but the Visitor Center is a project that is also coming toward a conclusion regarding its financing and getting into a phase of sort of final permitting. The parking deck component still has a ways to go with regard to design, but we are expecting to begin, as things continue to progress, with the last few pieces falling into place, that Quarry Lawn, will be hopefully under construction, and shortly thereafter the Visitor Center. So as I've been saying to you over these months, we're still pretty close to having both of these projects launched about at the same time. It's like during this year, they should both be starting their construction. They'll be under construction for a year or more than a year, probably a year and a half actually, from when they sort of start. So that'll be again very exciting to see, which appears to be just around the corner now. So I would also like to note under item D2, we have a couple of upcoming project reviews from the county that we wanted to mention. And I would like to invite Commissioner Raffel to just run us down. This has to do with the historic preservation master planning for the county. Commissioner Raffel, could you just say a few words about this to the commissioners?
Just the preservation plan, or kind of the next few that are coming up soon?
Yeah, the next few that we can expect to see at the commission.
Sure. One is the county in, I want to say it's probably 2 years ago now, embarked on creating a historic preservation master plan for the county as a whole. This was a mitigative measure for allowing a synthetic turf field in Gothelbrook Park, which Chico could not deny because other Olmsted parks had similar fields installed. But with that, there were a few projects that we had to do, and this is one of them. It was a very good project. It was partnered with ETM Associates, who you will know from Mary Ellen Criminal Park and Hunter Research. The document is about 200 and something pages, and it looks at all of the county's historic assets that are owned by the County of Passaic. So this includes parks, buildings, archaeological resources, and byways. So I was very, I wanted to include byways specifically, which is how it will affect Paterson, because a lot of the byways and county-owned roads are at the heart of Paterson's historic district. So they impact Courthouse Historic District, Eastside Park Historic District, the downtown, and the Great Falls. There is about either 30 or 45 day comment period. We are being heard at our first planning board meeting on March 24th. All municipalities within the county will receive copies of the plan, and there will be a link online. I'm hoping to get that link posted this week, but I will send everyone via email the actual package for the preservation plan. And then once comments are taken, it will be adopted and edited, and then I can send everyone around our final plan. So that's project number one. Number two, during COVID, we got funding from the New Jersey Historic Trust to start it's going to be a 4 to 5 phase approach of restoring the county courthouse facade. So this is the entire exterior, which includes, lighting, the steps, railings, windows, all stone masonry, the entrances, the dome, cupola / dome, and the statuary on top, including the roof. So it's a very involved project. Plans. Following our first grant, we finished construction documents, we started construction documents and are at 95%. We are ready to submit those to the State Historic Preservation Office and the HPC. So we're hoping to have those for next month or April. To the commission, it is a very intense building, so we might need our architects for this, I'm not sure. But more to come. And then the project I kind of mentioned before, we have the Spruce Street gateway design. But then the last one will be we are also embarking on the courthouse annex, which is the former U.S. Customs House, to do a full exterior restoration, which includes the clock tower and getting the clock tower back working. It needs a full roof replacement. The tile is over 100 years old, and it's hasn't really been repaired as much as it should have been. So it's sort of at its expected life. So that project, we're wrapping up our conditions and sort of contractual documents, which I'll share to the commission for input and feedback on our methodology. And I think those are the 4 main projects at this time from the county.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, so one
One more. Which I am not sure how we will go about it. I know we all saw the carriage house, but we do have to submit for a planning review. So I think we're probably going to see that one again. Sorry.
Great. Well, these are all great projects. We're very excited to hear about them. It's an incredible chapter for all of these resources to be getting their repairs and being addressed for the next decades to come. It really is timely, in fact, for the age of these buildings to be addressed comprehensively like this. Just to recap for the commissioners, the first one that Kelly mentioned was a preservation plan document that has a very specific track. It has to, as a planning document, it will need to be sent to all of the municipalities to be considered by their planning boards to provide input back to the county there'll be a public comment period, and then the county planning board will also be looking at all of the comments, and they'll be looking to get everyone's input after this sort of process, and looking to adopt that as part of the county's formal planning documents. So it's a process full of formalities laid out, I think, according to law, because it has to do with planning law. And I know that the county planning board and Kelly's office would like to have our input. So if when Kelly's ready, I think she mentioned that she will be soon, maybe as soon as this coming week, to release that draft. I'll go ahead and distribute it to all of you with the idea that maybe next month, depending on what our schedule is for next month's meeting, but we'll have Kelly maybe give us the 15-minute tour of the document after everyone has had a chance to look at it on your own time for about a month or longer, depending on where it lies in the schedule. But we'll distribute it. We'll ask you to look at it. She'll give us a run through at the meeting, and then you'll have a period of time to provide comments for us to wrap up and send in formally. So that's sort of what the immediate one of all these projects you mentioned that we would be looking on. The others are still, I believe, on the horizon, but we have the formality of being involved in those reviews as well, as you've seen with other buildings within the city limits that Kelly has brought to show us. So congratulations and thanks for all the great work, Kelly. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report under old business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. Commissioners, do we have any questions for either the Executive Director or Vice Chair Rafael? All right, so if we don't have any questions or comments, then I'd like to move to item number 8, public portion.
I'll make a motion that we open up to the public.
Do we have a second on the floor?
Second.
Thank you. Secretary Henderson, did you capture the motion second?
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Garcia Leon.
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Corbo. I heard you that time. Commissioner Redmond.
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael.
Yes.
Commissioner Walter.
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Could you provide the number to the public to call in?
Of course, Mr. Chairman. Those who would like to participate in the public portion may call in at 973-321-1579 and enter meeting ID 711-680-001. Again, 973-321-1579 and enter meeting ID 711-680-001.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Time is now 9:08. We'll call it 9:09. So we'll give the public 5 minutes to call in, and we'll close the public portion. Thank you. The call line will close at 9:14, just for clarity to the public. Secretary Henderson, can you confirm if there are any calls? It's 9:14.
No callers, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to get a motion to close public portion. Second?
Second.
Secretary Henderson, can we have a roll call?
Of course, Mr. Chairman. Just to confirm, Commissioner Garcia Leon with the first and Commissioner Redmond with the second.
Commissioner
way
Redmond
around.
was Commissioner Redmond was the one to motion.
Thank you for the correction. Commissioner Garcia Leon,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Corbo,
Yeah.
Commissioner Redmond,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael,
Yes.
Commissioner Walter,
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Before we motion to adjourn, I just want to say thank you, everyone, again. Welcome aboard, Mr. Clayton. And I look forward to moving, into the next month and beyond to kind of keep the ball rolling in the direction that we're moving in. With that being said, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All right. Secretary Henderson. So we have Commissioner Redmond for the motion and Vice Chair Rafael for the second.
Confirmed, Mr. Chairman. Roll call.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Garcia Leon,
Yes, and good night, everyone.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes, and good night.
Commissioner Corbo,
Yeah.
Commissioner Redmond,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rafael,
Yes, good night, everyone.
Commissioner Walter,
Yes.
Chair Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I'd like to call this meeting adjourned at 9:16 p.m. on February 28th, 2022. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Night all.
Good night, everyone.